Alright, what's up y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. We are a clothing company, but really the focus and the reason for us is to address the human body's natural function. We come at it through the skeletal system. The fat content changes at different times, the muscle mass changes at different times, but the body really is just about a neutral position within every part of it, because there is a neutral to every joint, and if it doesn't reside within that neutral almost always, then damage, chronic patternings, scar tissue, things caused by clothing. When we place clothing onto us and the center line that is there, the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, the jaw, stabilizing the entire body, if those things are pulled out of the only center that there is, then the rest of the body rotation-wise is changed, and all the things. Muscles deactivate, other parts of the body are trying to compensate, because the body will only ever work as a whole, activated all through the entirety of it, because anywhere that any of it goes, every other part of it has to. It's all connected. So we show free modifications. I talk about the anatomy of the human body in depth. We will have clothing available. I'll talk about more toward the end. But there's also three sides to us. The whole thing is allowing the human body to work. But we have In The Image Clothing Company podcast with gospel discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. The reason why the point is to allow the body to work is because we're designed by and through God. Jesus Christ designed our bodies. And so there's no way any human being can ever train their body to do anything. It only has its functions. It's a mechanical machine. I know that that's something that's not understood nowadays, and it wasn't understood by me until it was. But it's the truth. So, we also have another third of us, which is In The Image Clothing Company Music. I am a fingerstyle guitarist. I address setups and sizings of guitar to allow the hands to work, because if the hands are damaged, the shoulders will be as well, and then traveling through the whole body. As I say often, the hands are essentially the shoulders, the feet are essentially the hips, and if alteration in any way is happening to either of those, then the whole body is damaged. Now, let me just say for context, there was 8% battery life on this device that I'm filming this video with. So if it cuts, that's the reason. I'm pretty sure we're good as far as I'll get the information that needs to be in this before the battery fully runs out. Just in case though, now you know what potentially does happen if, right? Yeah, clothing for everybody, just to keep the body in its only working position. Man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. It's always the same. The body is not something that will ever change. Pants need to be entirely above the hips and slightly higher in the front than the rear. That way there's no restriction to the hips because the pants are off of them. And these core muscles that we have can only work the way that all muscles within the body work, by shortening. And so having the pants in that angle is the only way that will ever even happen. The core is just there to do the function that every muscle within the body does, meaning the only thing it ever will, and it can never be deactivated. And some people are trying to get their core to activate in times and places and things, and no. Damage, and damage. If your core ever deactivates, your feet will point out. Your pelvis will change more anterior rather than neutrally posteriorly tucked. Okay? Now the top seams that we wear on our shoulders, they need to be behind and evenly behind the little bones on the top of the shoulders. Those are the other end of the collarbone. That's how we keep our shoulders in their only neutral / even just working position, which is where mine are as I'm speaking, behind the head, where these upper trapezius muscles connect to the rear of the base of the skull, along the cervical spine, which is the neck, and the top / rear of the shoulder. And notice when my shoulders are in their neutral, my wrists are as well. So is my hips, so are my hips, so are my feet, so is my spine, and the whole body. It just only has one position. I made a video in 2024 in the end of the year titled "The Body Only Has One Position," because it really actually does, and then it just only hinges and reaches out of its only activated position. So 2 prerequisites we talk about within the intros under In The Image Clothing Company, because there's not always shoes that have laces that we're placing on us. There's not always clothing that has tags that we're wearing, but when there are, that's why they're separate from where clothing sits. If you put a rope across the top of your foot, there's only one way to shape the weave of a rope, which we just call a shoelace. It's just a term for what we're doing, and not alter the human foot. And that's In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. With that, we tie our shoes evenly over toward the center line of the human being on both feet, over toward the inside, because otherwise you have rotation issues throughout the entire body. To the tips of your head, there'd probably only be one tip to the head, but then the tips of your fingers as well, just from your shoelace. So also, we remove all tags. If there's a tag within clothing, it's either causing a physical gap, not allowing the skeletal system to be in its only working position, and or not allowing musculature to activate against the tag. And then, as I was mentioning earlier, compensation's trying to happen within the body. The body will never work with compensation because it has to work as a whole. So this video is titled Feet Should Never Scuff. This is the thing. The human body only does what it does. We have modern things like chairs, unnatural floorings, stretchy materials, all sorts of things, okay, that just never existed until recently, and the human body has been the human body since Adam. So we can't add things to our lives, to our world, onto the earth, and expect our bodies to work with or around them. As we talk about, the only thing we can ever do is work around our bodies. They're always only what they are, and anything we choose to try to add to life comes and goes. The fat content, the muscle mass, the body never changes in its operations, okay? If you notice, I haven't moved my feet through the entirety of this. My body's loose, okay? I'm not all stiff and like standing still and stuff. There's no such thing as shifting weight. If you want to keep your body working the only way it ever will. There's a center line. The feet oppose that, gripping arches inward. On the outsides of them like this, they grip just like the hands with that neutral wrist, the neutral ankle coming from the knee down, curving slightly outward to the very heel of our feet. So what happens is we add things. We add heels to our shoes, and now our feet are like this all the time, and it seems weird if you have no shoes on and you lift your heels off the ground. But then if you're wearing shoes that have heels under your heels, that's the same thing. And so your body's changed all the way up to the top of your head, to the tips of your fingers, and everything just goes out of its only neutral because of heel on the shoe. Those arches have to grip inward. And really, we talk about the balls of the feet. There's a video under the Truth Behind series titled The Truth Behind the Balls of the Feet. And I talked about how you're always, quote unquote, on the balls of your feet if your body's just working the only way that it actually does. But when we place things onto our bodies that put it into such a chronically incorrect position, is what we'll say, then you might be trying to get it to do something that it would just always do if it wasn't restricted. Meaning the only thing that it ever actually could even do and just function. So being on the balls of the feet is the only way the body works. It's the only way that things like the core, meaning that specifically, can even stay working. If you're on your heels, your pelvis changes and your core elongates, like having a pant waistline pulling on your pelvis, like having laces collapsing your arches, like having shoes tied in a rotation. Anything that's ever deactivating the core, that's why I say it so clear in the intro. I said it very specifically clear in this one. The core should never be deactivated, and not shouldn't, but just can't, or else the whole body's damaged. So that's why people have these misconceptions about things like shifting weight and what it means to try to be on the balls of the feet. It's like trying to have good posture. There's only one way the body will stand. It's designed to just do something unless there's restriction or any reason it couldn't, it'll just do it. It's designed to work. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Designed to Work. So yeah, that's the whole goal. That's why the key word is allowing the body to work. That's why there's no possible way to train the human body to do anything. And we just have to get rid of all the restriction that we can in our own situations. So being on your feet, let's say you had no shoes on, the way that the human being would be unless mankind created something we call a shoe. If you ever scuff your feet, you're gonna tear up the bottom of the skin on your feet. You can never scuff your feet without damage to the actual bottoms of your feet. So you'll see sports players, like basketball players, and they've got squeaky shoes often. Anytime a shoe is squeaking, imagine doing that with no shoes on any surface, just because it happens on any surface. You're playing outdoor basketball, indoor basketball on a waxed hardwood smooth floor. You're playing sports outdoors, any sport, but basketball has those shoes that squeak often. And also there's almost always heels on those shoes. They're almost always laced incorrect. Often people are tying them incorrect. The toe box is squishing the toes in ways that they will never be able to grip and arch. And so you can never scuff your feet without damaging your body to the tip of your head and the tips of your fingers. So in the Image Clothing Company shoelacing technique, just what we call that, just how we weave the ropes across the feet to not alter them. Yes, that just allows your feet to just work. Because when we use our feet, we should just kind of place them onto the ground. It's like if you ever play fetch with a dog and the dog runs after a ball, a frisbee, any stick, anything you're throwing for it to bring back to you. If the dog's running and it stops really hard and scuffs its feet across the ground, that's potentially really dangerous for the dog because it's scraping the pads of its feet. We have quote unquote pads to our feet as well, just meaning skin on the bottom of our feet. And we can't ever hit them hard like this and scuff them. Like when people walk as well, you'll hear sometimes the heels hitting the ground. And yeah, that's the heel of the shoe. But the human being only will ever work the way that it's designed without man-made things called shoes or clothing placed onto it, because those come secondary to the only way the body's designed. And let's say you're walking with no shoes on and you scuff your heels as you walk. You're gonna scrape the skin off the bottom of your feet, and now your bone will be